Okay, I'm going to talk about some of my favorite resources for nature study. So Emelina's looking at the Handbook of Nature Study by Anna Comstock, and this is probably one of the gold standards that you'll hear about with Charlotte Mason. It's a great resource to look up information on something that you're interested in, such as ants or a certain type of tree or a woodchuck. It's a little bit bulky and wordy, but it does have, so it's divided into lessons. So this one says it's a lesson on the woodchuck or groundhog, and it just gives you a lot of good information to talk with the child about. Or like here, it has a little poem about the red squirrel. And then sometimes at the end, they'll have these observations where you can just things to kind of be looking for and to point out to the child to be thinking about. And it doesn't always answer the question, so sometimes you just have to figure out those answers or look them up on your own. But it does give you a starting place. Hi, Judah. So this is what's included in the book, all about plants and animals and earth and sky. This entire book is actually online for free. It's just going to be a little bit difficult to navigate online. So if you just want one resource, that would be a great resource. Now, in addition to that, I love this because this is actually through the Missouri Conservation, and it's a calendar that has specifically what to expect in nature during certain times. So this would be like in September, it says begin watching for puffballs and other fall mushrooms, or salamander breeding is at its peak, or swallows stage in large flocks, or after a cold front, watch for migrating broad-winged hawks, or sassafras, sumac, and Virginia creeper start showing fall colors. So it just gives you specific things to be looking for at that time. And this is from 2013. I just use the same calendar every year, but you could buy, hi there, you could buy a new calendar every year. The Missouri Conservation has also a free magazine to all Missouri residents that comes once a month, and it's full of great information specific to Missouri, and there's probably those kinds of resources in other states as well. They also have a kids magazine called Explore, and it's free to Missouri residents as well, and it's just a little bit more geared towards kids, but they always have a section that's called Get Out that's specific for what you should be doing during that month to be out in nature. Does he look like he's talking? He's covered in mud. So these are all great options, free to Missouri residents, but you can purchase a subscription if you're outside Missouri. The Missouri Conservation Department also has all these wonderful, fabulous resources on Missouri oaks and hickories, lizards, on different types of birds. They also have posters. And when I was in Illinois, they had similar resources that I ordered. And what I've done is taken these and cut them out and put them on 5x7 cards, and that way we can use them as flashcards. And we use them during morning time so that we can kind of quiz the kids and actually specifically learn what a hickory leaf looks like, or what type of toad a Fowler toad is.
But that bird looks like the same as this bird.
It does. Is that a bluebird?
I don't think so.
Here's some more of the posters that we were able to get for free from the Missouri Conservation Department. You just request them by mail. And then here's some of the packets I've made of mammals. These I made of snakes. These are all different types of tree leaves, different types of birds, different types of toads. And so we'll just spend a few minutes each morning maybe learning a different type of frog, and on the back I'll have the information. So I just cut these out of the free materials, but that way we can have more repetition and we get more comfortable with identifying the animals that are common in our area. There's also all kinds of field guides. This was one I purchased, a pocket guide to different types of birds that are common in Missouri. We also have just different field guides that will show you different pictures of wildflowers or trees. This is a coloring book, 50 Favorite Birds coloring book. This is a tree finder book that helps you identify trees initially, if depending on what kind of leaf. Is it simple or compound, and what does the bark look like? It helps you to go through. Here's constellations. These are some living books that are recommended by Charlotte Mason. So the Burgess Bird Book for Children, and it has pictures of the birds, and it also has just a narrative story about the birds, but tells different characteristics about them within the story. So it's a read aloud, but also has information about the birds that you can use specific to learn about their habitat and their habits, and also the way they look, so you can identify them. This is an accompaniment book that is from Simply Charlotte Mason. You found it! There's your baby dragon. You found it.
That green.
It is.
And that purple.
It has
purple.
It has purple eyes, and it matches the green dragon. They're both purple and green. That's wonderful.
And they got wings on it.
And they have wings. Now you can take them on adventures.
Oscar, actually, they got hands.
Cute little dragon hands.
Yes. And out in a baby.
We're talking about nature. What do you like out in nature, Judah?
I like the animals and the elephants.
You like the animals and the elephants?
Yeah.
Yes.
I like the monkeys.
And the monkeys. Do you like looking at the birds at the bird feeder?
Yeah.
Me too. What about you, Oscar? What do you like in nature?
I like neighbors moving and Dad likes the nature.
Yes. Once a week we watch a nature movie.
Yeah.
So we can learn about things all over the world that God has created.
I was gonna say.
This is another Charlotte Mason recommendation, Jack's Insects. And again, it's a story, but within it, it kind of has information about insects. And so I just wrote, like, this chapter is about the plague locust and Australian locust. So I wrote up here, and this one is about the flower mantis and the clay fire moth. And so I will talk with the kids. This one is about an ant caterpillar, snake caterpillar, and twig caterpillar, about those particular things. I might look up a little video on YouTube, and so we'll watch a little clip about that particular animal, so that when we're reading it, the information that it's giving us within the story sticks a little bit better. This is a pocket full of pine cones, and the idea is to teach you how to just have a gentle type of nature study learning experience. So it's just a story about a couple of kids and how, when just going about their daily lives, they are incorporating nature and just maybe writing in their nature journal or going for walks and reading about things that animals that they're observing. This is a book about keeping a nature journal, and has lots of drawings and just little inspiration and ideas of what to do. And here's one of my nature journals, and I just do simple little drawings and talk about what we saw, and then the kids put their artwork in here. I've also just kept a list of nature things that we would see each day when we looked out the window, and along with the date, and that's kind of a fun list to look at later. This is just a guide to spiders and insects. The Apologia books are really good with, the first one is just about flying animals, and the second one is about zoology, swimming creatures, and then the third one is about land animals, and they have a lot of good information to help you be able to kind of teach on the fly as you're going about on your nature walks, different things that you've learned from the books as well. One other resource that I really like is from Our Journey Westward, and she has a website where you can get lots of information, but she has just this was something that I purchased, but it wasn't very expensive. She has put together just a piece of paper that you could take each day on a nature walk, just to give you kind of a little bit of a focus on your nature walk. So this one is about mapping birds. This is a red, white, and green walk. So you're looking for things that are red, white, and green. This is a root study where you find a root and then make observations about it, different measurements. This is a winter walk where you just try to find 12 things in nature that you've never noticed before and put them in your grid. This is counting clouds, so you would count all the different types of clouds. So it just gives you a little bit of a focus when you go outside of what's something different that we can do today. I often simply just tell the kids to look closely and see something that you've never noticed before, or we might make a collection of leaf rubbings or tree bark rubbings or pressed flowers or rocks or feathers, or I might tell them to pick 2 things to investigate further, and then we'll bring them back and look at them in the Nature Study Handbook. So much of nature is about learning to use all 5 senses and slowing down and smelling and seeing and touching and using the powers of observation. One of the things that we have found that's incredibly helpful is with Google Photos. When you take a photo, you can press an identity key. And so I'll just take pictures of flowers that are along our walk or trees, and then press the identity key, and it will give you 3 or 4 choices that it could possibly be, and it helps you to figure out what to look up in your field guide to kind of narrow it down. I've also found it helpful just to try to narrow what you're doing. So you want to be able to identify every tree and just open up a book and learn all the wildflowers, and that just isn't practical. So I'll go on a walk and I'll find the 6 wildflowers that day, and I'll bring them back and look at those, or I'll look at the trees around our house and see if I can identify them, and if I can't, then I'll ask one of my friends who's good at tree identification, can you come up to our house and just go around and help me identify the ones that are common. So you might do that at the park. Just grab somebody that knows their stuff and say, can you just spend an hour with me and identify those things? So just your goal would be to learn 3 or 4 trees that you could identify, 7 or 8 flowers, 1 or 2 butterflies, or the 4 or 5 birds that come to your bird feeder. And then the next year you'll learn 5 or 6 more. So you kind of start small and then branch out. That way it's not so overwhelming. So if I just had to start with the most valuable resources, this is a good book, although it's a little bit big and dry. So you might be better off with just some free things to kind of whet your appetite. So that would be these resources from the Conservation Center. And the nice thing about them is they're specific to your area. So that's going to help you actually, whatever you're learning about, you have much more chance of seeing. And you haven't spent any money. And then again, these calendars I think are really helpful. And if they're not available in your area, you could still get the one from Missouri, and it would have some probably similar things if you're close by. And then just grab a plain notebook and some pens and some markers, and head outside and just try to start drawing what you see. Recording your observations and having all kinds of adventures together. Oftentimes we call it going on an adventure, and we'll pack a few snacks and a blanket that we can sit on in our nature journals, and then we'll just head out and try to find something that we haven't seen before.